Good morning, everybody. Come on in and have a seat. Sit down and let's talk about what we're going to be doing today. Be sure and log into your Google Classroom and check out that bell ringer I have for you today. We are going to be starting a new unit, so we have a lot to talk about. And so while I'm taking attendance, I need you to work on answering that question. It's really going to help us with our discussion today as we get started. Now, there are many areas of animal science in which you could focus your studies on, but we're going to just focus here on animal classification and animal selection, the responsibilities that we need to be prepared for, and that sort of thing. All right, like I said, we are starting a new unit today. Be sure and look up here because I do have a new set of goals for us. We're going to have 4 lessons in this unit. So if at any point you're curious as to whether or not you're doing well or going to do well on the test, just always look up here and see if you can answer or be able to do what that says. And for each day you come in here, don't forget what our daily learning targets or objectives are, or I can statements, if you will, right here. Now, here is our vocabulary words for this unit. If you can look up here right now and tell me what all these words mean, then you're going to do great. Wonderful. But if you can't, then by the time we're done here, you'll be able to tell me what domestication, castration, a sire versus a dam, insemination, in vitro, estrus, copulation, and gestation are. So be sure in your notes that I have provided for you that you take advantage of that. Use that slide that I gave you, and at the bottom there where you have the place where you can put your notes, be sure and fill that out, or if you have room, you can add it next to the words. For instance, sinew, you should get started on that right now. That is, anytime you hear that in there, we're talking about the ligaments or tendons inside the animal. And a sire and a dam are the male and female parent of the animal, not just the male and female, but the mother or father, the male and female parent of that animal. So let's start by just having a little discussion. Let's just talk. How many of you in here have a pet at home or an animal that you keep of your own? Do you provide anything for that animal? What are some of your responsibilities with that? And if I asked you, why do you think animals are important to us, what would you say? Animals were not here on the earth. Could plants survive without animals? And could animals survive without plants? Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed a personality in your animal? Have you ever noticed an emotion within your animal? Sad or happy? I think what we've established here is that these are living creatures, and just like us, they have feelings, they feel pain, there are differences among them, there are personality differences, and they have emotions, maybe not the same way as you and I do, maybe not express it the same way, but we are certainly dealing with a living creature here. And there is a certain importance to that and a certain amount of responsibility that we are going to talk about here shortly as we go forward in what we have and what role we play in seeing to it that those animals are cared for. How many of you in here like bratwurst? Yeah, they are good. You know what that skin is made out of? In fact, I got a couple examples here that I brought in, and I'll pass these around. You guys can take a look. These are the collagen type here, but I'll explain these as we go along as well. What about Jello or gelatin? And we're going to come back to that because there's some significance to that. And when we talk about some of the things that are involved in the making of those, I think you're going to find it interesting. So lesson number 1, we have 4 main learning targets for this, or I can statements. Explain why animals are important to us. Be able to identify and list several different types of production animals that are used in agriculture. Identify several products and services that are provided by animals. And finally, demonstrate proper terminology when describing the different animal types or classifications. And I'm really going to focus on that one because when you hear something like a sow or a boar or a barrow, deer or a bull, you know what people are talking about. And that's important. So we're gonna focus on that. But here we go. Let's talk about some of the important roles that animals play in our lives. Food. Many of us, maybe not everybody, but many people rely on animals for a source of sustenance, for nutrition for our bodies. They're a great source of protein and a large part of our diets. Feed. We feed animals to other animals, right? We use food for ourselves, but we feed animals, other animals. We might take a mouse and feed it to a pet snake, chicken and fish into cat food. That's an example where we use an animal to feed another animal. Clothing. Shoes, for instance, that you have leather on them. Your boots, the belt you have has leather in it. Some of the fiber that you have, your sweater, if you have wool, like this sweater here, has some wool in it that came from a sheep. Recreation. So just for fun, right? You might ride a horse and go horseback riding. Or just recreation, meaning we're using them for fun. Of course, companionship. I think it starts that way for many of us. From when we're young, we get our pet, and that's what pets really are in many cases. They're a companionship. That friendship that we have with our pets sometimes is stronger than it is with some to become members of our family, and the loss we have when we lose them can be just as difficult as anything else in this world. And so yes, of course, companionship. Now up here is a poster that I really wish I had. Hopefully you can see this well from the slides I gave you. But this shows all the different well, not all, but many different products that we get from, and then the different part of the animal that these things come from. But if you are using makeup, lotions, maybe you play the drums. As we established in our first unit, we have an ever-increasing population going on in this world that is showing no signs of slowing down. And we must find uses for every part of the animal when we consume that. It's not enough just to eat the meat. We must find uses for everything, and that's exactly what we are doing now and what we will continue to do for many years to come. And so that is what we're going to be doing for the rest of the classes. I'm going to turn you guys loose, and you're going to show me what you can find out about some of the ways in which we are using an animal other than just for consumption. So here is today's assignment for you, and I'm going to give you the rest of the class to work on this. What you are going to do is you're going to go through each of the main production animals that we use here for food. Beef cattle, dairy cattle, swine, sheep, chicken, poultry, that sort of thing. And I want you to find at least 2 products, a minimum of 2 products that we get from those animals. Now, hear me out. Meat is not an answer. You're not going to put fish meat, cow meat, horse meat. That's not an answer, okay? I want to see a real product that comes. And I promise you, when you get to looking, you're going to find it. So I'm going to let you guys find as many on your own as you can, and then we'll discuss those when you're done. So work on that for the remainder of class, and when you come back in tomorrow, we'll keep moving along. So let me be sure and explain to you guys what you're going to be doing on your final test. It's important that you guys are paying attention as we go along and taking these notes and completing the assignments, because they're all going to work together when we get to our final lesson in this unit. You're going to be putting together a civilization on the moon project, where you're going to have to list the animals that you are going to bring, and you're going to have a limited number of animals that you are going to bring. You're going to have to explain why you brought those animals, what the purpose of those animals are, how those animals are going to benefit us, and the technologies that you plan to use to support that population of animals on the moon. Since we won't be able to continuously just ship you animals, you're going to have to make sure that the balance between the use of those animals for food or whatnot and the reproduction of those animals is in balance. And so then you'll also have to be using the proper terminology when referring to those animals. So Just keep in mind as we go through each one of these lessons that we are building towards that final project that you're going to have to put together. So it's important that you are completing these assignments. Okay, well that about wraps it up for today. You all did a great job and I appreciate you guys following along with all of this. Tomorrow we're going to get started on talking about those different classifications and being able to use those terminologies for each of those animals as we talked about. So work on that assignment. If you didn't get it done during class, you need to work on that tonight and get that to me by tomorrow. I'll maybe try to give you a little bit of time at the beginning of class if we can, but we do need to get moving on. Be ready for that, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks a lot.